And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, doing, what is this, the third time that we've sat down together
Yes,
for
sir.
Voice of the Broken, fourth time total recording. We last week we did an episode where we talked about a brother that you lost, and got a whole lot of positive feedback from that. People really seem to like what we're doing. A lot of people
Yeah, it
said
was
that
really.
Peach has got a really deep
Yep.
voice all of a sudden.
Say, oh, really? Yeah. For those like what who are just listening,
Yeah, yeah,
we can go deeper.
yeah. Hey guys.
Yeah. What's up, bumble bitches?
Yeah. So today
Hey,
we're going to be reading emails again. We're going back to our normal format. This email that I've got pulled up is 6 pages and it's called Drugs, Cheating, and Lies. Our email screeners did put a disclaimer on this that says this message does touch on drugs, cheating, and maybe a little bit of abuse. I don't know why they wrote maybe, because they obviously screened the email, so we'll see. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we just jump into this and start reading?
No, I mean, I was going to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Uh, so, do you have like a power song?
You mean like something I would like deadlift to?
No. Like mine's Simple Man.
Okay.
That's because my dad used to always, he had a hard time saying like I love you because of his generation, but so he would communicate. His love language was here. Listen to this song, but the one that always stuck was Simple Man. And I wanted to know if you had a song that just hit you right in the heartstrings that you put on anytime
That I need
that
to
you were
cry?
feeling, yeah, or just like feel empowered, feel lifted up.
Um, I mean, my cry song is definitely not one that lifts me up, but I do have one that's Blues Man by Hank Williams Jr.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm mildly autistic, so I have a weird relationship with music. I can listen to almost anything that'll make me cry. I can
Mm.
I'm one of those guys that'll put on Fan of the Opera before I squat. Like my music tastes are all over the place.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, so this email starts off by saying, I want to start this email off by saying, I love listening to you. You have helped me realize many things in my life and my relationship, and I thank you for that. This email might be a little long. Keep doing what you're doing. I love you guys. Every time somebody says the email is going to be long, it's like 3 pages, 4 pages. We do have a guy in our Discord right now that just submitted an email that's 81 pages long, which will probably be like a 4 episode fucking thing. And that's
Damn.
and that's even if Jenny gets the email shrunk down to like 60 pages, it's still gonna be a lot. I've been really
I
excited to
bet
read it though.
I bet you it starts at like Nom or something.
Yeah, I mean he's in his 50s.
Yeah.
This dude says, I'm currently 26. This story is about when I was from 18 to 24. When I was 18, I was addicted to drugs. It started off with just simple weed and pills and then escalated to snorting meth. Excuse me. At the age of 19, I started to get clean. I was in a trade college. Around my last semester, I met a girl that I had gone to elementary school with. We started talking and hanging out, and eventually we started dating. It was great. Everything was going good. When we would go to see our grandparents, they would cook us some food, and my girlfriend at the time would bring me my plate and tea without even asking or me lifting a finger. I love that. That's the sign of a good woman. And I know that there's going to be people out there who listen and be like, oh, man can make his own fucking plate. There is something powerful about a woman bringing you your meal and being like, here you go, honey. I love that shit. My wife brings me my plate every day.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
Yep. I had never had anyone do this for me. I thought she was perfect at the time. Close to 8 months into our relationship, she started to hint at marriage. At the time, I'm only 20 and she's 19. She had started to mention multiple times on separate occasions that if I didn't ask her to marry me by the time we hit our 1-year mark, that she would leave me. That's a huge red flag, bro. Run.
Mm. Mm.
That should have been my
Yeah.
first sign to get out and run.
Is that the next sentence in
Yeah.
the?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I thought that was you.
Nope. That was,
Hey, good on him.
yeah.
Good on him.
Says, but my head was still cloudy from all the drugs, and I was blinded by the way she was taking care of me. Before we move any further than that, we Peaches and I talk a lot on the To Be Better podcast about really taking your time during the courting phase. I don't even think you should live with somebody in the first year of getting to know them. Like, you guys really need to slow the fuck down. We have such a high divorce rate and like so many things go wrong in relationships so fast, especially early on, because from 18 to 25, you're a fucking kid still. Your parents are still taking care of you in those ages. Like, you very rarely are people completely out on their own at 18 and like doing the thing. It's just the
Yeah.
reality of it, especially now.
Yeah.
Yeah, slow down, guys. So continuing, we got close to our 1 year mark, and she started looking around for rings. We started looking around for rings. She found the one she wanted. It was a $5,000 ring set. I was working on the oil rig by this time with no kids and very little bills, so no problem making payments on a ring. I asked her to marry me the week we hit our 1 year anniversary. I thought everything was going to be perfect, but I didn't know what I was really in for on this long journey.
Oil rig. So
Yeah,
he's probably gone for a little while at a time.
yeah, a couple weeks
Right.
a month.
Yeah.
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 By this
Hmm.
time, we were already living together in my parents' old house that they still had. So after a month or two of being engaged, we went to the courthouse and got married and had a ceremony a few months later. I should have listened to my best friend when he told me to run. I should have listened to him. He said it twice. He really should have listened, apparently. But nobody but our parents knew that we were already legally married. After we got married, stuff started to change. She no longer brought me my plate. She was always wanting me to buy more things. So I started to work construction, making $3,000 a week, and she started to blow money while we were traveling together, but I was young. Working construction, making $3,000 a week at like 20, 21 years old is insane.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I wonder if he's got a degree or CDL.
Yeah, well, he said he went to a Votec, but that
Yeah. He's
puts you at
got to,
$156,000 a year at 20. Like that, I'm not saying he's lying, but I don't know many 20-year-olds who are making that kind of money. I wonder if maybe he meant a month. I don't know. That's a lot of money. 156,000 a year in your early 20s is a disaster piece. Like you're either gonna end up getting like super addicted to drugs, like blow all your fucking money because you don't know how to be responsible with it yet, or you're gonna be the exact opposite and invest, buy houses, and end up being like a multimillionaire by the time you're 30.
yeah.
I think the first is probably more likely though.
Yeah. Well, considering we're reading his email, I would say my bets are locked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, she started blowing money while we traveled together, but I was young, no kids, no real bills. This also started something in her head that I didn't know about. Fast forward a few months, I'm 21 now, and she's a few months from turning 20. She gets pregnant. I was happy. I wanted a kid while I was young, and so did she. We had talked about it, planned it all out. It was not a surprise when she got pregnant. A month from me turning 22, we had our first son. He was wrapped around the entire time and still is to this day. He was wrapped around me the entire time. Okay. By this time, she had changed a lot. I had bought her 2 different cars by now, quit construction to be home more with my son, and she was still blowing money like I was making $3,000 a week. I guess he did mean a week. I was
Yeah.
only making about $800 a week now, just enough for the two of us to get by. By this time, she had quit. Why would you quit your job? Like to go from 3,000 to 800 is such a huge fucking loss. Like, what does that 800 a week put you at before taxes? Like, that's not even 100 grand a year.
Well, maybe he had accumulated. How long did it say that? How long did it say that he worked in that position?
Well, I mean, they met when they were what he said, they got married at 19, so he's 21 now. Either way, even if he saved every dime he made, he would have only had 300,000 in savings. But he went from
He did.
156,000 a year to 41,000 a year. You know, you just cut your income to a third.
He did say he had no real bills to pay.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, he could have been longing to be home
Well,
because he's spending a tremendous amount of time away, and then thinking, you know, I got plenty of money saved,
yeah.
so maybe I'm going to take a little bit of a hiatus before going back to work.
Yeah, I agree with
You know?
that. Nobody wants to work, dude. I mean,
Yeah,
if we could all just live the life that we dream of and not have to go anywhere to do it, not have to sell our time, nobody would go to work. We'd find things
yeah,
that we want to do that makes our life feel enriched, and we would just do them. But
yeah. I mean, soon we'll have robots that take all of our jobs, and you know, we'll have nothing to do but pretty much sit around. But and Klaus Schwab, not everyone can be a robot polisher.
yeah, well, we're not
Yeah,
gonna. If that happens, they're gonna have to create some sort of universal income because the world would not be sustainable at that point, and capitalism would crash because you have to make money in order to spend the money for these businesses to continue to be in business.
I
So
think we're going to hit the singularity, and humans will be obsolete.
I think in a
We're
lot of
talking.
cases we already are.
Mm,
I don't want to get into that. I have an Aya ceremony next weekend. Like, let's not do this right now. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. By this time, she had quit caring about me. Everything I did was never good enough. I was always in the wrong. She wanted me to do everything for and cater to her, but she didn't do the same for me. She had seen how close me and my younger brother were. We had grown closer after my drug addiction, and she didn't like that my attention was not fully 100% on her. I still
Is
made
that his pause? Is that his first mention of drug addiction?
No, he mentioned in the beginning that he was addicted to drugs and that he started out smoking weed, taking pills, and then moving to snorting meth.
Oh damn! I must have? Was that at the very very beginning, like in his intro?
Yeah. Yeah, it was at
Oh,
the very
okay.
beginning.
Okay.
I still made sure everything was taken care of and spent a lot of time with our son. Now, she had slowly started to push me out of the door. She was no longer the woman that I fell in love with at the beginning. She was now a money hungry person that only cared about herself. If I wasn't doing anything for her, she didn't like it. I used to draw a lot. It helped me with my drug cravings that I still had and helped me with my depression that I had. But anytime I would try to draw and get a little bit of peace, she would get mad at me or yell at me for yell for me to get the baby. All the while, she is just sitting on the couch watching TV, not doing anything. She didn't want me to pause her show to tend. She didn't want to pause her show to tend to the baby. I almost felt like a single parent. I was no longer happy in my relationship. I felt like a slave. I had tried to leave, but she would always say that if I left, she would kill herself and guilt trip me into staying when I was unhappy. Dude, that if you leave, I'm gonna eliminate myself threat. I'm walking out the door.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ever be held captive by a threat. If you're going to do that shit, whether I'm here or not, it's going to happen. Like if you're that point of your life where you don't want to live anymore, me being here is not going to keep you here.
Yeah.
That is all 100% manipulation in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, being someone who's been to that level, you're relatively quiet most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't want anyone to offset your chosen path, your decision.
Right.
That's like, the trauma's like so heavy, you've already started kind of packing your bags. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Peaches had a boyfriend once, way back in the day, that they were breaking up, and he sent her a bunch of photos of like self-harm, and they were little tiny scrapes. It looked like he was scratching himself to try to make himself bleed. And I was like, if I was you, I would have called a wellness check and been like, hey, my boyfriend's threatening to kill himself. He just sent me photos of self-harm marks, and I'm worried for his safety. And I fucking called the cops on him, dude. Like, get his ass Baker acted for a weekend. Let him see how he likes that shit. And I would do the same thing here. The moment somebody is like, hey, you leave, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm be like, all right, cool. Hey, my wife or my woman is threatening to kill herself. I don't think that she's sane right now, and I'm fearing for her safety. That would have been my out. She could have spent that 72 hours. That'd have gave me a whole weekend to move my shit. Your camera just locked up.
Yeah, and if they weren't serious, well, you're kind of glitching.
There we go.
Sec, Cody, are you?
Either my internet or yours. It looks like it's working.
Cody's fixing it. If somebody was making that type of empty threat too, and then you did in fact like say, hey, I had to. I was scared for you and your well-being, and then they're like, oh, I didn't really mean it, but they just spent like a couple days like in treatment.
Yep.
That's kind of a big, well, you'll probably never do that again, right?
Yeah, right.
Like that's
right.
probably something, and especially now because you look like you got a record of it, so they're going to take it even more seriously the next time you do it.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best thing you could do.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a
Serves you
smart
right.
play. It's kind of petty, but it's definitely a smart play. I think I don't do well with the manipulation shit. I don't do well with guilt trips, and I don't do well with people hanging shit over my head. So
yeah.
Anyways, back to this. It said, so I started to make myself happy. I started to cheat. At first, it was just talking and flirting with other women. Then it went into sexting other women. I always kept it all under the radar and made sure to delete everything before I got home. This went on for many months. We barely had sex because I didn't want anything to do with her. She was treating me like I was a slave, always belittling me, and when I didn't do anything right, talking to me like I was stupid all the time. A few months into me cheating, she got pregnant again. It was not planned. It was just something that happened. Our son wasn't even one yet. Then one night, I finally got caught cheating. I had forgotten to delete the text picture before I got home. She always was going through my phone when I was asleep because I always kept my phone on me 24/7, keeping it hidden from her view. This night I came home and showered after work and ended up falling asleep on the couch with my son. I was sound asleep with our son in my arms, and I woke up to being punched on the side of the head. Where she had hit me was only like an inch away from my son's head because he liked to put his head on my head to sleep.
Hmm.
When I stood up with my son in my arms, he was crying loudly. It took everything in me not to hit her back. I don't hit women. I wasn't that mad that she hit me. It was that fact that I had my son in my arms and she could have hit him, and he was only like 6 or 7 months old. I got to be honest. You should have hit her back. This whole idea of, and I'm not going to cut this out. The idea of a woman being able to physically assault a human being and get away with it simply because she has a vagina and we are the stronger species. If there was a very real threat of us being able to defend ourselves without being labeled a bad man, that being the weaker species shit, you guys would stop putting your fucking hands on us. And that's really what it comes down to. That whole it's not okay to hit your woman stigma needs to go away so that when you guys get out of line and decide you want to physically assault a man, we can fucking defend ourselves.
Yeah, I've been clawed and punched and did cut with glass. I've 100% had to stand like while I essentially had the ever living piss beat out of me. My first serious relationship in college, got the dog shit knocked out of me. And really all you can do is sit there.
Yeah. Because in the event that you hit back, you go to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah. We read it. I read an email in the beginning of the Voice of the Broken, and I actually read it on the To Be Better podcast in the beginning of the podcast as well, from a guy that has become a close friend of mine that has he had 180 plus stitches from collarbone to collarbone. Because a woman who was way shorter than he is, he's like 6'7". She was like 5 foot tall, but she tried to cut him. And he stepped back just enough that she missed his throat and cut him from collarbone to collarbone. And that was the third time that she attacked him. And the first 2 times that the cops came out there, they laughed at him. It took his CO in the military seeing what was going on to get him out of that marriage and into a new area. Like it's wild to me that people don't think that women can abuse men. It fucking happens.
Yeah.
Anyways, he said, I stormed out of the house and walked to my mom's to give her my son so I could handle the situation without scarring him more. By the time I had gotten back, she had busted my phone and left in her car. I didn't know where she went, had no way of getting a hold of her because I didn't want to drag my mom or anyone else into this. I didn't ask them to call her. Why would you try to chase her down? She just attacked you. You've got your son. You drop your son off and you go back and she's gone. That's a great way for you to start packing your shit and getting out of Dodge. Like, she can have a fucking house. Who cares? It's a house. You can buy another one. You can rent another one. You can go stay at your mom's, whatever the case may be. Why would you want to go and have a fight like that? What is that going to solve for you? So for all of you guys that live in that drama-fueled scenarios where you are constantly at odds with each other, a situation like this is a blessing. When they leave, you have a free moment to get your shit and get the fuck out of the house.
Yeah.
I don't understand
so many people get locked up in pattern,
yeah,
routine, comfortability. Like the thought of starting over again, like the flooding of negative thoughts that comes in, you have just a plethora of problems, like with the partner. I guess in this situation though, because what I was about to say was, but they still watch the kid and they still, they provide X, Y, and Z. That makes you go, oh, when I don't have that, what am I going to do? My mother can't be there to watch, my son all the time. And, those kick in. But in this situation, you're kind of right. He was talking about how there is no kind of like reciprocity, that's happening between him and her.
right.
And that, he has to get up because she doesn't want her shows to be interrupted. And, so in this case, it's like, yeah, why would you? The issue just took itself out and drove down the road.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great opportunity, a new launching platform to find somebody, and it might take time and it might suck and it might be more of a ball and chain type thing. Hey, I'm so-and-so. Yes, I have a kid. Oh, well, that rules out. There's not a lot of people super eager to take on something that big or whatever, but you're kind of in a better position regardless. Take your time. You'll find the right person.
Yep. If you're already miserable, you can do that on your own. This also speaks to self-love, dude. People who love themselves and like know their value and don't like have a self-loathing will not tolerate things like this. When you
Yeah.
realize that you add value to the world and that you are a good person and you love yourself, when somebody treats you poorly, you're going to remove them from the situation. And the way that I
Yeah.
try to make this look, if you have a best friend that you love and that you would like lay your life down for, if you saw them being treated this way, you would do something about it.
Right.
You're not going to just sit there and watch your best friend be treated this way. Something would happen, whether it would be, an intervention or trying to get them out of there, the cops being called or whatever, something would be taking place there. The problem is we don't love ourselves enough to go, I'm better than this. I don't deserve this. I can go and make money and I can raise my child and I can do all this without you. So I'm just going to do this without you. And you
Yeah.
can feel however you want to feel about it. If you want to go ahead and try to eliminate yourself like you've threatened to do, go right ahead. It's just going to make it easier on me because I'm not going to have to pay for fucking alimony.
Oh, for sure. But those people that you're typically running, like, you're kind of evading, you're escaping and everything, they have developed years, weeks, months of knowing your happy triggers,
Yep.
the proper things to say to stop you dead in your tracks, and or the classic, like, David, what is it, Dave Cook, like he's got that whole section, his comedy, like, you're just like your father.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's like a ninja strike to your fucking frontal lobe, and
Yeah.
cuts like they know your triggers and stuff. So that whole process of I'm trying to leave, I mean, what do? Do you block them? Do you
Of course.
what about
Absolutely.
the kid?
What about him?
What about,
She's
like,
not the one taking care of him. I'll see you in court. I get a lawyer. I will go to court. And if I can't take them right now and we can't agree to a custody agreement, go ahead and take the kid. You can go ahead and file for custody or child support or whatever you got to file for while I'm filing for the same thing. And we'll run this through the court system and see what happens. I got to be honest. I would have called the cops the night that she hit me. And I would have had it documented that she punched me in the fucking head and then she took the car that's in my name and just disappeared. Like there would be a record of this shit, dude. Like, we're told that we're supposed to just suck this shit up and deal with it. Like, this is what men are supposed to do. And I don't believe that. Somebody asked about that cup on the last episode. You want to show your cup off real quick? And where did you get that from? Got a helmet on the front. Okay. But where did he get it then?
I'm pretty sure the Ren Fair.
Okay.
Oh, and somebody also asked about in Discord
your grip thing.
So this is what it is. The camera's kind of bright on it, but this is a pro medium tension. It's called Pro Hands by Grip Master. It is pretty quiet. Like, there it is all up to the mic, but yeah, it's quiet. This is something that I've adopted as, like, sitting here. Usually it's a hand rubbing.
Yeah. They call that stimming.
Yeah. Yeah. But this allows me to kind of, build hand strength at the same time as deal with the artillery shells of emotion exploding all around me.
There you go.
Anytime we do this podcast. Yeah.
Okay, so back to this. He said eventually she came back home after about an hour. She made me stay up until 3 a.m. talking about this. She didn't make you. You chose to. I hate that. Nobody makes you do anything. This man was obviously trying to salvage a relationship, even though he was already cheating. She just physically assaulted him. He doesn't want to be there anymore, and the guilt is keeping him there. This entire situation, he's there now and doing what he's doing because of abuse. Like, this is like typical. This is what men go through. Like, this is really what we go through because it's easier to deal with this shit than it is to deal with the court system, to deal with having lawyers, divorce, alimony, child support, never being able to see our kid again.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate this shit so much.
Are there any states that give rights to the father over the mother?
So a lot of states are now moving 50-50. Florida's 50-50. You have to prove the other parent is unfit. However, the broad definitions of proving them unfit is not like listed, so there's not really a way to know. You have to prove that they're abusive or they cannot adequately provide for the child. Like, there's a whole lot of stupidity that goes into proving someone unfit. But I think that there needs to be psychiatric evaluations done. And granted,
financial.
Right. Well, financial affidavits do have to be filled out when you go to get a divorce either way, because they want to figure out who's going to be the breadwinner and how alimony or child support is going to have to get figured out. Like, that's done from both parents anyways. And if she wasn't working this entire time, he's going to get fucked in that whole situation. But the psychiatric evaluation, a true psychiatric evaluation, is a 5 or 6 hour test. Like, it's not just a quick, you go see a therapist and they say you're sane. Like, there's a whole fucking like process to that. And I think that when it comes to children, both parents should be forced to take that. And if somebody comes back as unfit or unstable or narcissist or borderline or any of those things, there needs to be very real mitigation, and there needs to be a lot more involvement when it comes to
Yeah.
figuring out where the children are going to go. And I'm wording it that way because I don't want the government involved in people's families and their personal lives, but I also don't want children put in situations where they're going to be abused. So I'm not
You
a
ever
smart
broke
enough man to figure that out, but just my
you
thoughts.
ever broke down the word parenting?
No.
Uh, you're renting. You're renting your child. Wordplay. Parenting. Essentially, you signed your child off to a third party. You don't have as many rights to that child as the big government does.
Oh yeah.
That's why CPS can just kick your fucking door in. That's why they can dictate. That's why there's truancy officers. That's why it's hard to be able to, set up for homeschooling. That's an intentional act in my opinion. But I think that the word, there's all sorts of magic in words.
Yeah.
Cursing, like that's all, spelling, like it's all wordplay.
Yeah.
But the big you're parenting, you're renting that kid from the US government because you signed because we all got the 9-digit.
Social Security. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to this. He said, I honestly didn't care about our relationship anymore. The next day I went to work and was texting all day. I had told her that I was no longer happy in our relationship. She had made promises to treat me better and to watch her spending so I wasn't under so much pressure. And I told her that I wouldn't cheat anymore and we'd try to make things work for our kid and soon to be born kid.
It took an awful big threat to get someone to step into line on that one.
Yeah.
Red flag.
Why not have the conversations about how unhappy you are before it gets to the point of violence? Right? Like I understand, I can even understand why men allow attention from the opposite sex when their marriage is fucked up. But why let it get to that point? If your marriage is starting to get fucked up and you're not happy in a relationship, the moment that you're not happy is when something needs to be stated. Hey, I noticed you don't initiate as much as you used to. Hey, you used to, we used to dance in the kitchen. We used to do date nights. You used to hold my hand. We used to da 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 da. Not, well, I guess we're not fucking tonight because she's not initiating, which, you're obviously not either in that situation, but you're not dancing in the kitchen anymore because you're both not dancing in the kitchen anymore. All these things have you involved in it, but you're blaming your person because you're not happy. Why not have that conversation before it gets to the point of cheating or getting punched in the head while you're holding your baby at nighttime?
Yeah, no joke. Or like, you have initiation and it's denied. That's
a very different conversation though.
That's a, but if it's just two people sitting there not initiating and then fucking sitting there thinking like, oh, he never does it, or oh, she never does it. That's kind of wild to me.
Yeah. Well, we've talked to a bunch of therapists, and a lot of therapists will say that actually happens. And the reason that it happens is because men will try, and then we'll get I have a headache. I have cramps. I'm on my period, which the period thing is for at the end of sentences only. That shit doesn't matter to a lot of people, but I guess to some it does, whatever. But that whole situation, like if you try 3 or 4 times and every single time there's an excuse, eventually you're just going to be like, all right, well, they'll let me know when they're capable or ready to have sex. And then we just quit trying. And that shutdown is very real for a lot of people. It's more common than you would think. Rejection hurts, dude. People don't want to fucking,
totally.
Especially with the people that they claim to love. You know what I mean? Like that, having that just shut down shit sucks.
You're at the construction site talking to the boys and you're like, my girl's been on her period for 14 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fuck?
Yeah. All right. So moving on, he said, so we made our promises. I was working 10 hours away from home, making big money again because we had bought a trailer, only to coming home for a week after working for a month straight. The entire time I was working, she had gone back to blowing money and putting me down again. It was only a month after we made our promises to each other, so I was back at being unhappy again and being depressed. It was just the same old shit again. So I started to make myself happy again. Only this time I was 10 hours away from home and could get away with more. Started to sleep around with other women because I knew I couldn't get caught. Being hours away from home, while I was hours from home, I asked for a divorce because I was not happy and nothing had changed with her. She threatened to kill herself once again while she was pregnant with our daughter. So of course I stayed because I didn't want anything to happen to our daughter. Wellness check. I'm telling you
So
guys,
yeah, yeah.
when people make that threat, wellness check.
What do you think about him doing the I want a divorce over the phone and not in person?
Um, I gotta be honest, that whole everything needs to be in person thing died with me a long time ago. And it died with me a long time ago when I realized that most people don't have the um mental fortitude to have a honest conversation in person. We do 90% of our communication through text, emails, messengers. We rarely talk on the phone anymore. People don't know how to have like the social cues when having conversations. The part of our brain that has social cues in it is actually atrophied as a
Mm,
whole because we don't have those face-to-face reading body language, tone, inflection conversations. So at one point I would have been like, that's cowardly, knowing that he punched her that she punched him in the fucking head and that she's been threatening to kill herself and shit. And he's working 10 hours away and he's only home for a week, a month. And when he is at home and he's being abused, I gotta be honest, I would probably be like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and file for divorce and I'm not coming home.
yeah.
I may have done it over the phone. I don't know if I'd have done it over a text message, but
You know how I would have done it?
by just serving the papers.
Nah, carrier pigeon. It's like a fucking you roll that fucker out like a it's like the size of a Chinese fortune cookie. It's just like 12 foot long.
Written in cursive so she struggles to read it.
Yeah, just like fucking ancient looking like medieval writing.
It's funny.
You've been served.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I do think that's a good question, and I think that is a discussion that a lot of people should have. There are a lot of people out there who are like, you got to look me in my face and say that you don't want me anymore and all that shit. You don't have to do shit. That's a them want, not a you want. And if you're called a coward because that's the way you did it and that was easier for you and you're happy now, who gives a shit if they call you a coward? You're fucking miserable in your relationship. They didn't give a
Yeah,
shit about you anyways. You were being verbally abused. You were talked down upon. You were hit. I mean, at that point, why would you give a shit what that person thinks of you? Like,
yeah,
balls in your court at that point. That's where there's real power. If you're leaving, and no matter what they say or do at that point, you're on your way to freedom. You might get dragged through the courts a little bit, but
yeah. I mean, I could still see like say you had a great relationship with like the family. Maybe you had like a amazing relationship with your father-in-law, and it was like you got along with everybody but her. I could see you wanting to retain levels of respect, and especially if there's now we have the issue of custody and all of this, like it's going to make it a lot easier to set out honey rather than vinegar, you know, but I don't know. I just remember whenever me and the mother of my child, like, split, it was, I wanted so bad to still get along with her family because I knew that there would be so much turmoil for the upbringing of my child if there was just arguing and if every time they were speaking, about me and they're talking shit about me, I didn't want them to have any sort of reason to do anything like that.
right.
So I can see how something minute, like, he did the right thing. He sat down, he made eye contact with me, he gave me that, however, with someone in this position who clocked you in the head while you were holding your son, that could also be, getting impaled,
Yeah.
with a butcher's knife. So,
Yeah.
tightrope, catch 22, double-edged sword.
If you're going to be the bad guy, though, you're going to be the bad guy even if you do everything right. And that's just all there is to that. Hurt people are vindictive people. The people that you don't think will become vindictive when they're hurt and going through things like this absolutely do. And people who are already like this are going to be so much worse. And you're right
Yeah.
that the idea of being stabbed is definitely a fucking concern. Um,
I've been there.
yeah, I understand wanting to be, if you had like a long-term marriage with somebody that you just weren't happy with in a marriage, but you guys were still close and you guys still had a good bond, or it was really good in the beginning and like you guys just grew apart and you had an amicable divorce, you would want to keep things civil because you did spend time with somebody. That I understand. Situations like
Yeah.
this, I don't get.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
And knowing that she was pregnant and she was threatening to kill herself, why didn't you seek any type of psychological help for her? You were married. legally married, you can call and be like, hey, my wife just threatened to kill herself. She's pregnant with my daughter. Like, this is not, I'm not there to like help. I can't get her to the hospital. I need a wellness check. I need somebody to go and get her and take her to a hospital so that she can be evaluated. She's putting my kid's life at jeopardy. And there's a toddler in the house because he said that the other kid was under a year when this happened.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's definitely a place where you should make a wellness check. Except, I mean, I don't like we talked about earlier. I think that people more so drop the I'm going to self delete as a method of really, really rotting you, making you feel terrible, like getting control over you, bringing you to a super low point of concern and being alarmed. I don't think it's necessarily always uh that they intend to do it,
I
but
think
like we
most of the
talked about,
time they're not intending to do it. It is a manipulation
right,
tactic.
100%.
But when you realize that it's a manipulation tactic, the people who are listening to this, if they have a partner that ever does this to them, they'll know I have the option of a wellness check and they won't be able to go through this. And,
Yeah.
and that's the point of that. Dude, I've watched my mom do a lot of foul shit to men when I was growing up. And because I watched the way she treated people, there was a whole lot of things that I would not tolerate in my life. And I ended up tolerating a whole lot of other things that had nothing to do with the things that I saw growing up. But it did give me a good blueprint of like what not to tolerate. And that's what,
Yeah.
the goal is in this, is that people are able to understand that you have options when this is happening instead of just sitting there and tolerating the fuckery.
Yeah. But I mean, with each time, like it becomes more and more empty too.
Right.
Oh, well, you've said this. This is the fifth time you've done this. Fifth time you said this.
Yeah.
I think like the less you give it power, the more knowingly empty they know that statement becomes. Question is, what do they do from there?
Right.
Because they gotta find something that hits you under the rib. Yeah.
I think at that point there would be false attempts. There would be things like, I have no faith in humanity, dude. So like I understand how far manipulation could go. There could be a bottle of pills that has a single Xanax on the floor and you took a bunch of fucking, sugar pills or aspirin to make it look like you downed a whole bottle of Xanax, and then put an empty bottle on the floor and lay on the floor and wait for them to call. You know what I mean? Like I have seen a lot of really foul shit happen because of the fucking people that I grew up around. But
Yeah, but man, isn't that just like the epitome of perfect evidence of an unstable and unfit parent?
yeah, the problem is at that point, if somebody goes to that extreme, there's going to be a whole lot of fear of what happens if I'm the actual cause. Would I ever be able to live with myself with that? You know what I mean? And like that would be a very real thing for somebody. Could you imagine walking into seeing that and you're like your kid being left alone in the crib, your girl being pregnant, laying on the floor like that, thinking that she just took a bunch of pills to fucking prove a point?
Yeah.
The psychological warfare in that's rough, dude. Like that's a lot to process.
Yeah, sure is. That made me feel a certain kind of way.
Yeah. All right. So back to this. It says, so I kept my cheating hidden again. I ended up quitting that job and going to an offshore oil rig, making really good money, more than what we needed to support our family and pay all the bills. I was gone for a month at a time and home for a month. The entire time I was home, I had to work a second job to keep us afloat because she was spending money like crazy, opening up credit cards that I had no idea about, not paying our bills besides the house note because it was on auto payments. I never got to see my kids. By this time, my son is 2 and my daughter is only a few months old. She was still putting me down when I would come home from the rig. I would be up for 16 hours by the time I got home and wanted to take a nap. But she said she needed a nap before work and wouldn't be home until 10 at night and wanted me to take care of our kids and the house by myself after being up for 16 hours. I would wait for her to leave for work and go to my mom's to take a nap and get them to help watch the kids because I was just too tired to do anything. It's crazy.
But I mean, he was on the rig for 16. So this rig is local. It's close. He's not gone for fucking months at a time.
He said it took him 16 hours to get home.
Oh,
yeah.
So if she's working, who's babysitting the kid while he's gone?
That's a good question.
And why couldn't they, had continued to do what she had obviously had to have been doing while he was gone to allow accommodation for both people to get rest?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. He then said, my parents tried to keep us to stay together for the kids, but I explained to them that the relationship was over. There was nothing to save. There was no love on either side. I didn't love her, and she only loved the money and things I could give her. This staying together for the kids is a mistake, guys. If you're unhappy in your marriage and you try to stay together, your kids are going to see a fucked up marriage and they're going to have fucked up relationships because of it. It's better to divorce.
Can I tell you something funny?
Yep.
So one of my best friends growing up, his parents did that big time. Like, but it was a very emotionless house. It was very silent. No one really spoke. As a matter of fact, the family communicated more so through a dry erase board.
Wow.
There wasn't I love yous being thrown around by the parents to the children, um, anything like that whatsoever. Eerie, because I grew up in a house that was very, very much so, you always say I love you before you go somewhere because you never know type
Right.
energy, you know. And we knew the stagnicity was just reeking in the air, in this house, and we knew that there had to have been arguments and stuff, but more than likely when the kids are at school and things like that. Well, one day we were allowed to move the Nintendo 64 into the bird room. They had a bunch of big ass parakeets and like big birds, and we were sitting there and we plugged it in. We're all excited and everything, and all of a sudden we start noticing that these birds are recounting and chatterboxing all of the arguments that the parents had while we were gone, while no one was
Wow.
in the house. And some of the shit we heard, man, like little tattletales. But I remember looking at Aaron, and and he's so almost numb because of all of it. And I look at him and he's just like, yeah, I fucking knew it.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what a way to find out,
You know those birds had to have heard the same arguments a lot to be able to
Oh
figure out how
yeah.
to do it.
Ugh.
That's
Oh
wild.
yeah, man. But that was a rather strange, way to find that out. Fucking birds, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this goes on to say, after 5 years of this back and forth and nothing ever changing, we got a divorce. Happiest day of my life. She still tried to get all the money she could for me, but eventually, after a year of trying, she finally gave up. And now I'm in the best relationship I've ever been in. I've been in this relationship for 2 years now, and my mental health is so much better. And my now fiance doesn't care about how much money I make. As long as bills are paid, kids are taken care of, and food is on the table. If you read this podcast, thank you for taking the time out to read my story. I hope you all both have an awesome day. And thanks for being the awesome people that you are. And love you guys.
I love you too, man.
I would like to get I would like to get emails that have a little bit more of like the turnaround.
Yeah, we said that last time, but maybe that was written before, the that episode.
Oh, I'm sure.
So let's be very proclamatory, you know. If you're writing an email, I know the trauma part. I mean, that's gotta be some therapy, just scribbling that shit out like,
Yeah.
but don't forget that you definitely you climbed a big ass mountain and now you're at the top. Let's hear about the top.
Right.
Let's
Well,
hear about how you got there. Let's hear about what steps you took to get there. Let's hear more about the victory.
right. Well, you also want to talk about, guys, when you write these emails, you want to talk about the things that you had to do to overcome those things. So like if the divorce process was a struggle, talk about the situation with the lawyer and the things that you had to go through to get on top of that, because not paying a shit ton of money in alimony and getting both, of your kids is a huge win. So like
Right.
those are things that our listeners want to listen to, because a lot of people are living in these situations. It's not just um this is not just about getting it out, right? Right.
you know, yeah, for sure. And I mean, honestly, too, I think in hindsight, in retrospect, how long did he say that he's been with his new gal?
2 years.
2 years. So there has to have been 2 years now where you're working with the other parent, or that you are not working with the other parent. Let's hear about that too. Did you mend relationships? Did you guys realize that you didn't work together, but now this child keeps you in a good standing with one another? Is it still hell on earth? There's so much there
Yeah.
to, because I almost wanted to ask you, like, hey, how far are we into the email? Because yet again, we were we were like, all right, bad, it's all bad.
Yeah.
Holy shit, we're in the trenches, man. Like, we're still there. And then it's like, but now things are great.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on.
Yeah. Where's the rest of the story? I do have, this is an 18-page email that I'm sitting here that this is thoughts on the book that I wrote. Somebody wrote in and like gave their opinion on my book.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm going to just read this. It's 18 pages, but it's from a woman. And it says on here, you did say that the book was for everyone in the Discord. So this will be my thoughts as a young woman facing the aftermath of my own bullshit. There's a little bit of an intro there that I'm just going to skip. It's like a paragraph and a half, but it goes on to say, owning up to my shit has been hard. You've made it harder. But I mean that in a good way. You've pushed me to want to do better. I say push, it's really been more of a shove, and to take accountability for my fuck ups. Some of these thoughts may not be cohesive and make sense, but I find a rawness in that. It's unmatched. It has taken me much longer to get through the book than I would have liked. But after each chapter, I had to really take time to reflect and think deeply. My book is only 165 pages. You can read that book in 2 hours. Yeah. Peaches actually read my entire book while I took a nap one day. So like, it's not a long book. It's like this big, a little tiny guy. But there's a lot of good information in there. So if you guys haven't bought my book yet, buy my book.
So it's like a table topper.
Yeah, it's definitely if you left it on your coffee table, there's definitely a conversation to be had there. Hang on. There's no way I'm reaching that.
Well, I'm gonna just slide off camera for 2 seconds too. Hold on.
Hold on. All right.
All right.
When you look at my book, I don't know how well this is going to focus. Let me minimize this other window.
Bro, I gotta say, you were fucking shredded, bruh.
Yeah. I was 212 pounds in that photo. But
yeah.
That's a mirror shot. And when you look at the back of the book, I'm holding a razor blade to my wrist. And underneath of this is a bottle of pills on the counter spilled out. So like when you open the entire book up, I don't know if you'll be able to see the whole thing. It is my bathroom. And it's basically me in the mirror telling myself not to quit.
Oh, clever.
It's thin. It's only 165 pages. It's a relatively small book, but...
Is there pictures?
No, just on the cover, which is really cool because I took that myself as a photo challenge, but...
That's dope.
All right. Anyway, so she goes on to say, I cried a lot, actually, and it really put a lot of things into perspective that I would have never thought of, not only as a person, but as a woman, getting a glimpse through the lens of a man. Just the introduction made me take a deep breath to steel myself. With saying so openly that the book was most likely going to piss me off, I took pause. I asked myself, do I want to be pissed off? But the answer is, as silly as it is, yes. Because you put it in your words, this book is doing its job. I love that. She's quoting things from my book here. She quote, your perception is your reality. What will you choose to see? And she said, I don't know right now. And I may not know for a long time. I will circle back around to this thought. My next question is, who are you? She wrote, before my immediate answer would have been, well, I'm Cricket. I'm autistic. I love singing and moshing. I'm a survivor of a multitude of shitty things. I'm an ambivert, and I seem to have usually differing opinions from my peers. I'm a former vet tech, now getting into paramedicine, and I'm raw dogging life to the best of my ability. I love that, raw dogging life. Though after the chapter, it really made me think, I don't know who I am yet. That's the whole point of that statement. I know what I want to be, though. I want to be the change in the world. I want to be a change in the world. Or if that's too big, a change in a community, a positive change that leaves a lasting impact, like a more affordable healthcare for all, animal or human.
Hey, hell yeah.
I want to live on my own piece of land with a horse or two and my dogs in tow, but I'm not sure there are words for that yet. Labels, I should say, at least ones I could give myself. Those are labels I'd have to earn, because that was part of the book, is having to earn your labels. It's easy to be like, yeah, I'm a husband. I got married. You didn't fucking earn that title, bitch. You fucking got married. You signed a piece of paper. That I'm a husband has to be earned. That's action. That's provable, like tried and true. I did the thing. I'm continuing to do the thing. I'm a husband. Otherwise, you're not. And it's no different than being a male versus a man. You can call yourself a man, but unless you live like a man and you have manly traits, you're not. You're a male. And I actually touch on that quite a bit in my book. I don't like that shit. I think that people use labels that they haven't earned to like as a badge or like a name tag. Hello, my name is. And like, it's just not a thing for us.
That's like some stolen valor shit to you.
It is. It really is. Dude, that's a great way to put it. I never even looked at it that way, but yes, it is. I do
Yeah.
view it that way. It bothers the shit out of me. She then quoted me, "It's one thing to talk, but can you truly be that motherfucker in life when it demands it?" She said, "Past me would have said yes, of course. The fuck? Question mark. Current me is shaking my head and sighing at past me. I am more resilient now than I ever have been in my life, but I know there are still some scenarios where I would fold instantly. I'm working on changing this, and I'm working on bearing the weight on my shoulders that is only mine and nobody else's to carry, because it is nobody else's responsibility to carry my shit for me. The pillar talk is resonating deeply, as I talk about being the pillar of your people. I think I'm still in my warrior phase. I'm still learning what it means to be human. I'm still learning to accept my mistakes, learn from them, take accountability, and not repeating them again. Little kid Cricket wished so badly to be an adult to take the world by storm, but little kid Cricket wasn't given the tools to do that. And now big kid me is relearning herself and defining what she wants to be and picking up those tools as she can. I say big kid because on paper I'm 22 years old as an adult, but I'm really the image that comes to mind when somebody asks, what is an adult? Fuck no. I haven't reached my own rite of passage yet. My time will come. She's really just fucking taking out little chapters and answering them, or little pieces.
Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah, I dig this. She said, if you're the problem, you're also the solution. Another quote from my book. Just the quote, that is all. I immediately printed it out on paper to add to my quote board. I love that. Next one she quoted was, I don't know what is next, but I'm ready for whatever it is. This has been one of the hardest challenges that I currently face, and the hurdle is much taller than some of the others because I hate not knowing. How can I be ready for what's to come? How can I prepare? What do I do? The answers are there. This is definitely mind over matter for me, and I'm aware of it. But in the moment when things happen or I'm spiraling, remembering that it is hard, especially when sometimes in my mind everything is blowing up and crashing and burning around me. Change is never going to be easy. It's just all there is to that. You are going to have to suffer to get to the place that you want to go. I actually touch on this in the book that I'm writing again, but it's just worded a little bit differently. I think in order for us to become a new versions of ourselves, we have to kill the person that we currently are. And I don't mean that in a literal sense, obviously, guys. I'm not talking about eliminating yourself, but like your personality traits, your behavioral traits, the learned reactions and triggers and traumas and all that shit has to go, where you will never move past who you currently are. And that's just all there is to that.
Yeah. Reminds me of the end of Fight Club, except that's the literal sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, Tyler, my eyes are open. My favorite movie of all time.
It's one of the greatest.
Yeah. I keep seeing these like fan fiction AI made things where they're saying that part 2 is coming out, and I know that Chuck wrote a part 2 of the book, but I don't think that we're going to see a part 2 of Fight Club. I think that needs to just be left alone and never remade, and just it's perfect the way that it is, kind of thing.
Polinook is the shit, man. But I think Edward Norton's on like some sort of hiatus.
Is he?
Like there was something about the Avengers shit where he was going to come in and do the Hulk, but he asked, I mean, don't quote me, this is allegedly, I guess. From what I understand, like he had some pretty high expectations for what he would be paid to be the Hulk, and that's why they
Didn't pay him.
like, nah, and went with Ruffalo.
Yeah, I think
But since then, I ain't seen him in shit.
Yeah, I think Mark Ruffalo did a good job as a Hulk, though.
Yeah, same.
He reminds me of the Bruce Banner from the 70s and 80s when we were kids.
Yeah, yeah, with
Lou Ferrigno.
Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So the next quote says, "Attitude reflects leadership, Captain." She said, "I've seen and remember The Titan several times. It's one of my favorite movies, but I never really took the time to dissect it. I enjoy this analogy greatly, and that quote is genuinely beginning to mean something to me, not only in what I expect from my man and to allow him to lead and lead properly, but for myself as a woman who is growing into her femininity and finally feeling safe and happy enough to do the traditional housewife things. But to me, I find there is a sense of leadership there too. I cannot allow my shitty attitude or shitty feelings to get in the way of making sure that things in the home are done. It's my job to provide a clean, safe, and welcoming home for my man to come home to. And after a long 12-hour shift, it's my responsibility to take those decisions and extra tasks off of his plate so he can use this time to lead effectively. This made me tear up writing it because I have not been the greatest at that recently. I have not pushed myself, and I have not recently allowed my attitude to get in the way of not doing my part. Thank you for smacking me in the face with words." Page are we on? We're on page 5.
Sounds like the love deepened.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like when you were able to put your own bullshit aside and realize that like my relationship's not where it could be because of me, and you stop going, it's all them, it's all them, it's all them, and you start making changes, your relationship changes.
Yeah.
You can be in a really bad relationship. It may not change overnight, but if you do the right thing for 5 or 6 months, your partner is going to change because they're not going to come into a war zone. They're not going to be worried about what um they're not going to be worried about what version of you they're going to get when they come in the door. Like things are going to start to be reciprocated. People want to be happy as a whole. And when we're
Yeah.
miserable and the people around us are making us miserable, we don't want to be there and we don't want to be around them. So we shut ourselves off and we just exist. It's not the same thing as thriving with somebody.
Yeah. People don't enjoy being on neither offense or defense. What they want is harmony,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. She then said, the father chapter is really hurting. My mom was a drug addict and always had a revolving door of men. I had multiple men in my life trying to be a father in some way. And until this chapter, I had a very convoluted idea of what a father is. I didn't have that growing up. I was the percentage that ran away from home at 16. I was the percentage that had drug problems between the ages of 15 and 19. I too got the stop crying or I'm going to give you something to cry about because my mom still to this day cannot process anybody's emotions but her own. Unless I was happy or neutral, I got my ass kicked, and God help me if those dishes weren't done. Did a good job of shaping me into a responsible person that gets shit done, but at what cost? I have battled my anxiety and of holy fuck, I didn't do XYZ, somebody's going to be mad. And it hurts seeing kids with their dads sometimes who are what a father should be. I know it's my inner child screaming and crying because I wanted that so fucking badly. The daddy daughter dances, the bring your dad to school day lunches, to lunch days, the career days at school. I was always the odd kid out. I'm 99% sure I won't be having children, and if I do, you better believe I'm going to make sure that I not only have a leader for a husband, but a present father. I fucking love that. I love that you're willing to admit that you don't know if you want to have kids or not too. That's one of those conversations that needs to be for sure before you actually have a child.
Yeah, especially being a woman who's comfortable. I mean, it's a lot like college for someone growing up. It's like there is a certain part of your biology that is like, oh no, I'm supposed to. I'm 100. But what do you mean? I'm a woman. Of course, I'm supposed to have kids
Right.
someday. To backtrack and be like, I don't know if I will because X, Y, Z, and certain factors and everything. That is sparing a potential hardship for a child growing up in ambiguity.
Yep. Yes, it is. She then wrote on to say, I felt so seen in this chapter. I understand it was a guide for men to be better fathers and the beginning steps on how to do that. But reading the brief snippet about your own childhood was like watching flashbacks of my own in real time. She then wrote, thank you for being here, Chris. I do not know you personally, but I am so grateful to know you through the podcast and your conversations in Discord. It means so much to know that there's people out there like me who had the emotionally immature parents who never stood up for us and always told us to suck it up before they gave us something to cry about, who had to figure shit out on their own and pick our own selves up even when we were too broken and bruised and army crawling our way through shit the best way we knew how. You inspire me so much.
What a great writer.
Yeah, this is validating as fuck for me. Putting out a
Oh,
book.
I can imagine. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to feel elated right now
Yeah.
because I mean they are literally hitting. I mean, you can tell that they've probably bent pages and in your pages they've probably highlighted. They've probably wrote
Yeah.
notes. They treated that shit like an essay.
Yeah, dude,
And now,
I've seen photos of people's books where they've highlighted and stuck post-it notes and written in the book like it's 165 pages, dude, but it's just to the point. Like there's not a whole lot of filler in there. But
shine on, Chris. How do you feel, bud?
I feel great.
Yeah,
Dude, putting out a book is scary. Putting yourself out
yeah.
in the public on its own is not a comfortable thing. You know, as a content creator, I've gotten kind of used to it. Like being on in the public's eye doesn't bother me anymore, but putting out a book is tangible. Like you physically have something that I created in your hand that you've purchased that I'm hoping will make a difference in your life to some degree. And knowing that I've only sold 1,500 or 1,600 copies of the book over the last 3 months, like that's not a lot of sales. But the people who are buying the book are having their fucking life changed from it. Like eventually, maybe this will be a New York Times bestseller. I don't know, but if it changed,
I mean, give it time because people are word of mouth, man.
yeah,
6 degrees of separation. Once people start seeing the impact of it, once people's lives truly are touched by it,
yeah,
people are going to start handing that down because they believe that it has enlightenment within it. that it has good practice within it, good story, and this person's obviously gathered a fucking dump truck worth of positive, emotion,
Yeah.
positive practice, so yeah, shine on you, bro.
Yeah.
Fucking props.
It's definitely going to change lives. And even if it only changed 10 lives, it was worth the, 30 hours that it took me to write it.
Yeah, 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
10 lives is going to turn into 60. 60 is going to turn into,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. She then went on to write, I'm not a man, nor can I be a father, but I can be a human being who is kind, compassionate, and present. And I can be a human who holds myself, not only myself accountable, but others as well. She then goes on to say, Chapter 5, how do you define success? My definition of success is happiness. Happiness to people all around the world is so vastly different. Some people need money to be happy. Some need to be a million. Some people need a million animals or a career they genuinely enjoy. For me, my happiness is what I already have: 4 beautiful children, a wonderful man who does everything he can to support me and our children, and the ability to go to the concerts and festivals we go to. I don't think I wish for more, really. Then you have a successful life. Like, if that is your answer to success and that's what you currently possess, you should have true joy in everything that you do moving forward, because your purpose has been fulfilled. That's huge.
Yeah. Not to mention those children more than likely are going to raise up happy with the way that you treated them, the life that you gave them, and you're going to get that back in spades as you get older.
Yep. And the grandkids, in the event that she actually has kids. I know that it sounds like they had kids or he had kids and she's helped raising them. But anyways, sure, I'd love a bigger house, a newer car, and all the newest fancy gadgets that are always coming out, but those don't fill my cup. What fills my cup is knowing I have a beautiful slice of life I get to call my own. And the happiness and security I have felt for the last 2 years is unmatched. Safety, security, happiness, freedom. Those are 4 words that define success to me. And with the right nurturing, the success will only continue to grow and prosper. However, as I continue to read yet another snippet of your past life and you explaining your past cowardice and shortcomings, it put another factor into my perspective and raised another question to me. Am I okay with living the average yet happy life I currently have, or do I genuinely want more? The truth is, I really don't know. I'm comfortable where I am now because the last 2 years of my life have been the first years of stability I've ever had. I'm terrified to want more. I don't want to seem greedy or ungrateful. I'm afraid to lose what I have. I am definitely still a coward. I'm pushing myself, yes, with school, work, and house, to still maintain. But if it came down to it, would I survive if I added one more thing to my plate to add to the success I feel as though I already have? How much is too much?
Do you think that's cowardice?
If you feel like, so I touched on a lot of things in my book. And I gotta be honest, I don't remember exactly what she's talking about here, but I do think that if you have an ambition to do something and you don't do it, it is cowardice.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it doesn't sound like what she's describing, going to school and reaching out further, is anything to do with cowardice. It sounds like ambition.
Okay, well, she said, I'm afraid to lose what I have. I'm definitely still a coward. So this is, she said that in the last 2 years of my life, it's been the first years of stability I've ever had. This is complacency. When we get to the point where we have just enough, like let's say your goal is to make $100,000 a year and you finally hit that goal and you're living very comfortable. Most people never make it past that 6-figure mark because they get enough of comfort and they're able to just sustain that life for them and they quit. Whereas people who are highly motivated and understand that money is a tool or a resource that can be made and lost, and it is just something that you utilize to get to the next phase in your life, you take bigger risks. So you're not as cowardly with the things that you do and you're willing to put yourselves out there. Have you ever heard somebody say they got so afraid they froze? Like something scared them and they couldn't fucking move. Like we get that way with decision making or taking a new venture. And I do view that as cowardice. So like to answer your question in that scenario, yes.
That's why it's never mentioned in the fight, flight, and then freeze.
Yeah, it's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn are the 4 of the nervous system.
But you always just hear fight or flight.
Yeah.
No one really ever talks about the freeze and fawn?
Fawn. Yeah, like you fawn over somebody. All 4 of those are trauma responses in a situation where you are unsafe. You will fight, you will run, you will freeze up and not know what to do and just lock in position, or you will fawn over whatever it is that's coming at you to try to get them to calm down. Yeah, there's a whole lot of psychology behind all of that.
literally didn't know that those last two were part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so she said, the protecting your own peace line has been something I've been struggling with up until this point in my life. And I have realized that it's not hard to protect my peace, but it's a lonely road. And for the longest time, I allowed energy vampires and selfish, entitled self-gainers to be around me. And it took me way too long to realize that they were fucking up my life in a way that I didn't realize until the blinders came off. And until a stint in rehab made me realize I didn't want to live that way anymore. Peach mentioned in a recent vlog that outside human interaction filled her cup, and I'm the same way. But not only is it making friends as an adult already hard as it is, it's even harder finding people to allow you to enter your circle who have the same mindset. Not necessarily the same goals, but the same mindset of protecting their peace and doing what is necessary for them to reach their goals and align their actions with the way that I want to live my life. I don't want to have someone around that poisons the well, as you put it, about the men that you once knew that unfortunately ended his life at 22 years old. That ended his life. 22 years old isn't old in any sense of the word, but I find myself telling my man constantly I'm too old for childish bullshit because I am. I have spent far too long allowing people to walk all over me, giving handouts to those who were less than deserving, and putting myself in too many positions where I had to ask for help with the inability to give anything in return. I used to hate the world and hate my life because I definitely was one of those people who told myself all the time I didn't ask to be made, or this isn't fair. But what was I doing to fix it? Up until the last 2 years, absolutely nothing. And up until finding the podcast, I was just winging it in hopes that shit was working. Now I realize that while it may have been working, there was still so much that I could be doing, and I'm implementing more into my life to further grow and further better myself. This is another example of what success looks like to me. Realizing my shortcomings and doing whatever it takes to fix it and get back on track to reach my goals. No matter how much it hurts, no matter how much it breaks me, it has to be done. What are you going to fix it? ? Well, damn. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, I'd have told you that I had no idea. 4 years ago, and I would have told anybody who asked to fuck off and mind their business. Back then, I didn't have anything to lose. At least that's what I thought, but I did have something. And in fact, I did lose it myself. Damn, that's a fucking line right there. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Back then,
that's heavy.
Yeah, back then I didn't have anything to lose. At least that's what I thought, but I did have something, and I did in fact lose it myself.
Dude, props to the writing in this, man.
Yeah, that's huge.
Like, wow, that there's been a few times that I felt kind of suplexed by the heavy complication and thoughts that just like a short sentence like that is brought into my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wrote, I was a certified complainer, barely scraping by in a narcissistic abusive relationship and not doing anything to help myself or to try to get out of it for years. I settled and told myself, well, this is my life now. Can't do anything about it. I don't exactly remember what made me actually get out and leave, but I do remember waking up one day and saying out loud, I don't want to do this anymore. And man, that shit was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And part of me wishes I found the podcast then, even if it didn't exist at the time of all of this happening. That growth was messy and nasty, and it did, in fact, drag me kicking and screaming. I was the most alone I'd ever been, but I somehow managed to get myself my first apartment that was solely mine. I got a dog, something to take care of other than myself, something that gave me a reason to keep going, even if not just for me. That was 3 years ago now. That first year was bad, but also good. I needed it. I needed to suffer in a sense. I couldn't think of another word here, but I don't think suffer is exactly what I'm going for. It fits. Yeah. There's a bit of honor that comes out of the other side of suffrage, knowing that you didn't quit. Like you get to victory, you get to learn who you are in hardships. You overcome obstacles now so that when they are presented to you in the future, you have a pathway through them and you know how to overcome the obstacles instead of fucking going hard again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that was a good term. I needed to hurt and break and feel and reflect on my fuck ups and really gain a sense of where I wanted to go. And in the last 2 years after the first year, absolute gold. I found my calling, healthcare. At first it was vet med, but now it's being a paramedic. I discovered concerts and moshing. I can't even verbalize the healing growth I've experienced bumping into sweaty bodies with other people to nasty guttural vocals in the background.
We got an absolute warrior right
here, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I found it. I've built a family, my mosh pit crew, and the love of my life I fully intend on marrying. which is a lot
Pause for a second here, just real quick. So my younger brother, love him to death. Silas, man, if you're watching, I love you. So I met him at a Dying Fetus show in Columbus, and I mean, he's so brilliant. I mean, what an incredible musician. He's been like Flea on a bass guitar since he was 13.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
he's incredible. And he wanted to go to a hardcore show, and he was by no means hardcore at the time. You know, he had seen stuff. There's this place here in Columbus called Dirty Dungaroos. It's a laundromat owned by like some fucking just staunch punk rock dude, and he loves to have these big shows. And there's literally, like the train hopper hardcore touring, vagabond types. He's like, I want them to be able to do their laundry and get down to these fucking hardcore shows, right? And so he kind of started watching through the Dirty Dungaroo scene, and then he got to go to this Dying Fetus concert. And I remember standing next to him. So I'm too worried about fingers gouging out my only good eye, but man, did I love a good pit back in the day. So I'm sitting on the outskirts. I don't mind being one of the dudes on the sides, pushing people back in and being the big dude, preventing people from getting slammed.
Right.
Because I can, I'm 6'3", 200 something, pounds. I could
Catch
help
somebody
the wall.
if you need to. Yeah.
Right. Well, he's looking at me and he's watching all these people just crawl onto stage and just go running off. And just right in, I mean, just some people getting caught, some people not, some people getting flattened. And my brother's kind of my size, just a lot skinnier. And he's like, you're telling me that I could just go up there? And I'm like, no, those people are all special, Silas. Like, like they have, passes or whatever. No, dude. Yeah, of course. Go, man. And I remember his 6'3" frame climbing up onto that stage, and then having the instinct to be like, gather, catch me, and running and hitting and just getting surfed. And then I watch him just repeat, and I'm like, what is happening here? And the birth of my like kind of passive, meek, mouse-like brother turning hardcore right before my eyes, man. Now I swear, it used to be like he'd be like, have you heard this like really good Miles Davis song? Listen to the bass line of this. Now he's showing me shit I can't understand the fucking words to save my
You're
life,
getting old, man.
dude. Like, but I love it though. I love it. There's nothing like a good mosh pit. There's nothing like that good brethren, people, as long as you're following all the rules, because there are rules to mosh pits, y'all. As long as you're following the rules, man. So this lady getting in that and getting sweaty and probably getting broke, scratched, black eyes, goosebumps. Fuck yeah, girl. That's what's up.
Yeah. My first two concerts were Pantera from the Cowboys from Hell tour and Cannibal Corpse.
How close were you?
I was in it.
Ooh.
I was in it. I lost one of my boots at one of those shows. Like I remember like being bloodied and walking home with a boot on and one not. I have no idea what happened to my fucking shoe, dude. Like
just hopping.
Yeah, it was wild. Yeah. All right. Going back to the email, she said, which is a lot to say because I was against marriage my entire life, especially growing up with a mom who couldn't hold down a relationship to save her life. So what am I doing about it now? Well, my life is pretty simple. Orange Theory workout twice a week. At home, yoga, Pilates 4 times a week. Training with the dogs, private nannying as a job while doing school at night, and repeat. With, of course, concerts and festivals in between. I definitely could be doing more, but I haven't figured out what more I want yet. That's okay. You're 22. You're not expected to know this yet.
And not to mention too that am I going to have kids? Like, am I going to be the mother? Well, if she's getting kids anyway,
yeah,
she's nannying. So how cool.
Yeah.
That's great. That might help her build her opinion too
of being a mom.
Yeah, of whether or not she wants to be a mom.
She said, but for now I'm content, not satisfied, but I don't, not satisfied, I don't think, but definitely content. Defining what I want when I already feel like I have enough is hard, but to be better. That's the whole point, right? Because even if things are good now, they could always be better. Yes, they could. Yes, they could. Core values. That was another chapter in my book. She said, man, I didn't even think about that. I had to read yours a couple of times to get any sense of what a core value is. Respect, no lying, transparency, and willingness are mine. I'm sure there are more that I haven't. I'm sure there are more that I have that I'm just not thinking of, or that I have and just can't find a word to. I'm a pretty simple person to please. Just don't be an asshole. Don't lie to me and don't victimize yourself to me. I love that. I love that a lot. I fucking hate the victim mentality so much. She said, because I'm going to be the first person to tell you you're fucking up, which is why I'm horrible at advice and why I'm not very liked. I hate sugar coated and I hate when people sugarcoat shit to me. Just tell me how it is. I'm a big girl and I can take it.
Well, if she's given that, I would argue that she's probably giving some fundamentally solid advice.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
She said, my non-negotiables are pretty much the same as my core values. I'm not here to hold your hand. I'll guide you to I will guide you as best I can with the tools that I have, but I'm not going to do it for you, just like nobody's doing it for me. Love that. Nobody is entitled to my time except for my man and my animals. I fucking love that too. And nobody's going to treat me however they want to, period. Fucking stand your ground.
You created a absolute beast.
She's actually in Peach's top tier women's group. So she's doing a lot to change her life, whether she realizes it or not. She's fucking doing the work. She wrote, over time, I know these will change and vary slightly, but I have finally grown a backbone and I intend to keep it. This goes along with protecting my peace. If my values and non-negotiables are being encroached on or threatened, then so is my peace. And whoever is doing it has lost their ability to be in my life. Being in anybody's life to me is a privilege that is earned, not a right, and it can be easily taken away. Man, I fucking love that. The eulogy exercise. Have you ever wrote your own eulogy?
Once.
I have that in my book. I told people to write their eulogy for the person that they are today, who the person they think they'll be in 10 years, and then again in 30 years, because it gives you a blueprint of the things that you need to change in your life to be the person that you want to be written about for your eulogy.
Yeah, you see, I wrote mine in the wake of realizing that my entire life was so different after, coming out of the coma and learned, learning all of the new at the time weaknesses and stuff that bodily I had, mentally I had. I had to look back at the version of me that was murdered that night, and I wrote a eulogy for them. I wrote a eulogy for Alex.
Do you still have it?
I'll have to look it up. It's been in my notes. It depends on if I still have the same Apple sign in.
That would be an amazing thing to read on the podcast if you were up to it.
I'll look for it.
She wrote, while I've yet to do it is going to be very hard for me, not because I'm proud of what people would say about me tomorrow if I die, or not proud, but because I know people are liars, and I know if I died tomorrow, it would be a shit-ass eulogy. That's the point of writing it, though. I've had countless friends from childhood die, or people I knew from school that I was once very close to, and I've seen people show up to their funerals that hated them, or never said anything to them or had a real relationship with them, saying good things about the dead person to either make themselves look good or feel better. So you understanding what you understand from this, like your life experience, you're missing the point of writing the eulogy. It's not about what other people are going to say about you. It's about what you want said about you if you were to die today. I had, for the longest time, all I wanted was somebody to stand up there and say, you're a good man. But the life that I was living at that point in my life, there would have been nobody that could have stood up and said that. Even my best friend would have been like, yeah, he was a real fucker. You know what I mean? Like, I might have been good to him, but I wasn't a good man. And like, that's the point of that. You want to be able to break your eulogy down in a way that you can essentially kill who you are to become the version of the person you believe you're capable of being. Yeah. So Cricket, I highly recommend that you actually get on that exercise. She said, I'm not the best version of myself currently, but I know nobody would outright say that at my funeral because they're scared of the backlash. You shouldn't disrespect the dead. This isn't about their shortcomings. This is about celebrating their life. Hell no, fuck that. I'd rather the whole room talk about my shortcomings and my excuses and shit I should have done rather than lying to themselves or others about how good I was when we all know I could have been better. But what I can say is for 10 years from now, I want those good things to be for real. I want people to talk about how far I've come, how much effort I've put in, blood, sweat, and tears I had to wade through to get to where I was before I died. Right now, my eulogy would probably be somewhere along the lines of she was a bitch who only cared about herself and her animals. She was unreliable and never wants to spend time with anybody outside of her own home. She works too much and leaves a lot to be desired outside of work, which I'd rather have that than something fake. And maybe that's kind of shitty of me. I've also never written a eulogy or read one. Every funeral I've been to was too young to understand what was going on. but I know I want it to be genuine, not made up bullshit. I want people to say, man, I wish I had more time with her before she went. So you understand the assignment. The first eulogy that you write's not going to be pretty. It's going to be pretty fucking ugly, and it's going to make you feel like shit. But do it anyways, because it gives you a roadmap of who you want to be. You understand the assignment. I don't understand why you haven't done it yet. You're obviously very articulate. I would go as far as to say that you're an intelligent person. The way that you're writing all this shit out, you should fucking write your eulogy.
Maybe it's so hard to put onto paper because of like, you know, what you'll see. This
Yeah,
person obviously is very, very good at writing. Perhaps they're not ready to put it on paper
make it real.
because they know just how bad it's going to hurt.
Yeah, yeah. She said, "You bet your ass I'm making that happen. And the legacy I want to leave behind, I want my name on a plaque somewhere, or my name to be shared in generations to come. Maybe for a career and maybe medical advancements I have to implement over the next 20 years, or because I saved someone's family member and the story gets passed down to their children and grandchildren. I just need one."
That sounds very Achilles.
Yeah. "One person to tell me you changed my life for the better and I will be fulfilled in that. Not because of the ego boost, but because I did enough and because I was enough. Someone is still here." There's actually a quote that says the meaning of life is to bring richness to others' lives, and that's what you're supposed to be living for. This I want my name somewhere on a plaque. Peaches and I have a friend of ours who does he has a ranch, and I actually just did a podcast with him. It aired yesterday. But he has it was his podcast, not mine. He has a ranch that rescues exploited and trafficked children and adults, women. And he has 21 acres, and there's like 10 or 15 tiny homes on the property. It's probably exaggerated tiny homes, maybe only like 8 or 10. But he brings people there after they've been integrated and helps them. They lets them live there with no charge while they learn a trade or a skill and can get back on their feet to reintegrate to society after being trafficked or exploited, which is honorable as a motherfucker. And we've donated a lot of money to his ranch, and because of that, we have 3 bricks on his property that say either "To Be Better," Chris and Peaches, or a variation of the two. So like cornerstones of houses out there have our name on it. And I never thought that it would be cool to have a plaque of our name somewhere because like, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? It's just a plaque. But then after I got that brick on the property of the To Be Better podcast, the very first one is a cornerstone. I was like, damn, that's a fucking honor, dude. Like everybody that comes to this ranch that was exploited or human trafficked, they're going to see this and know that we had a hand in making sure that they have the ability to be where they're at right now into this next catapulting them into the next like version of themselves. And that's huge. So I fucking get it. That's a huge honor.
Yeah, you know, like I've been told several times that I have like Achilles syndrome. You know, like I have a tendency to like want to do risky stunts. You know, when I was in Florida, I jumped off that 60-foot tower into shark water. I mean, it's called Shark Tower. You know, like you know, and the way my mind is, like, if I live, I got some fucking oomph. I got some more gusto.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and I find that wanting your name to live on is, for me, that's healthy. You know, like I want to, like, you know, shout loudly and have my name echo.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, like, because eventually it's going to fade and whatnot. There's probably a ton of people who don't know who Achilles is whenever I say Achilles, you know, but he's that man that fight the Bulgarian, you know. And how are you gonna fight him? I know I wouldn't fight him. Well, that's why no one will remember your name.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's how I want to live, man. You know.
Yeah. What was
So
it?
props.
What was it they said in Gladiator? The actions of the man will echo through eternity.
Yeah, it was
Along those
something along
lines.
the lines of what we do today echoes in eternity.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
She then wrote, "This chapter was a lot for me genuinely, and I think I've said that about each chapter, honestly. Hence why it's taken me so long to get through your book. I used to think my past defined me, that I was a heartless bitch who wanted to make everyone around me suffer the way I suffered because it wasn't fair that I was the only one. I'm not like that anymore, thankfully, but past me was definitely spiteful and arrogant, and I used my trauma as an excuse to be shitty and as an excuse to not be better or to not better myself. I let my past experience hold me down and hold me back in chains of my own self-pity and doubt. I'll say it again, I was a coward. I refused to let anyone else close to me in fear of getting hurt. And the fear and spite is what drove me. Everything I did out of anger to just be better than my mother. But at one point I was just like her, a carbon copy, go figure. We're on page 15, so almost done. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll was my entire life until I finally woke up and realized that I wasn't happy and that I needed to change. Now I use my past as a tool to empathize with others, to connect with people who have faced similar life experiences, to tell others and relate to others that it's not always going to be like this, that things do get better. It just starts with you. It has to start with you, not the world, not your parents, not anybody else, you. And thank you, Chris, and please thank Peaches for me too, because it took me finding your podcast to truly realize that everything starts with me. And I think I always knew, I just ignored it. But you two always say you're the author of your own life, so grab a pen. Sounds silly if you say, so hand someone else the pen. Why would I do that when I can just fix my shit? It's hard, but doable. Thank you for solidifying that in me. This email was already long, but I did say in the beginning that I would circle back around to the thought of what I wanted to be perceived as my reality now that I finished the book. I'm not a bad person.
Masterful writing, man.
Yeah.
Like she did circle back around. Look at that. Man, if that was me, I would have wrote that shit and I'd have been like, yeah, I'll circle back around. I would have lost track. Yeah. I would have lost track so long ago.
I would have had to put an asterisk at the bottom of the page to come back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, mine would be like a bird's eye, like from music. Like, oh, supposed to go back. Yeah.
She said, I am not a bad person, and that is what I'm choosing to see. I'm not a bad person because of my past. I'm not a bad person because I'm not currently where I want to be in my life. I'm not a bad person because I'm a recovered addict, 4 years sober from Adderall. I'm not a bad person from wanting more. Because of that, because now that I am here, and I've thought about it after mentioning it earlier, that I wasn't sure if I wanted more. I do. I really do. And that doesn't make me shitty. It makes me ambitious. Ooh, I love that. That's
what we said earlier.
Yep.
That's nailed it.
I'm choosing to see that it's okay to want. It's okay to feel. It's okay to just be sometimes. I'm choosing to see that everything is okay. I'm doing my best. I'm doing the best I can with what I have and what I'm gaining through the podcast and new life experiences. I am the author of my own life. I will be getting that tattooed. But there's also a line in a song that I always go back to. It's called Body Bag by a band called Beartooth. One of my favorite songs. I'm not sure if you like it, but the line is, one life, one decision. Make sure it ends with you still living. I fuck with the line.
Beartooth's awesome. I'm talking about one of the nastiest shows I've ever been to, though, man. Oh my God. I've never had to worry about people aerially flying on top of me. They were doing the thing where they put their hands out like this and someone steps in it.
They're just throwing people.
But I mean, dude, I'm literally sitting there with my girlfriend, like trying to act like an umbrella, like getting hit side to side, back, forward. And then it started coming above and I was like, no way. We're like on the barrier too. And I'm like worried about my head getting like chopped off from getting pressed on the barrier. Like, wow. I mean, it was wild. I mean, but crazy energy. So hell yeah, Beartooth.
She said, if you listen to the song, please let me know what you think of it. Because when I think of you and Peaches catchphrase, I'm always reminded of that song because it's true. As I finish up this email with tears in my eyes, I just want you to know, Chris, that you're changing lives. You're going to get, you are giving everyone who sees the podcast, reads your book, new perspectives, new ideas, new ways to see the world around them. Thank you for reading this. Thank you for everything that you do. When I found the podcast, I was lost. Sure, I was working and maintaining the best I could, but there was always something missing. And I realized that what was missing was guidance, because in my opinion, you can only figure out so much on your own before asking for help. So thank you, not only for helping me, but helping so many others. I don't know how else to explain or describe the improvement in my life has had since finding the podcast. But just know that in the 4 months I've been watching y'all's content, and the month and a half that I've been part of the Discord community, I've never felt more seen. I've never felt less alone. With so much gratitude, your friendly neighborhood cricket. Yep.
It's got to hit you right in the boo-boo.
Yeah, it does. A little bit. Try not to cry.
I could see it.
Dude, I fucking, we started the podcast as a joke, right? Peaches and I were making TikToks. And when people found, because we were both speaking on relationships, when people found out that we were together because I walked behind one of her TikToks, people were like, oh my God, you guys are together. I fucking knew it. And like, there was a whole lot of shit and people were like, you guys should do a live stream and take questions. And we did a live stream and there was like 7 people that watched. And then we did another one and it was like 12 people. And then somebody in somebody actually emailed us and was like, hey, if you guys ever want to do a podcast, I own a podcast studio in Orlando. You guys can come up one day a month and record and I'll do all your editing, blah, 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 blah. His name was Jeremy. And I was like, dude, I appreciate that, but I have everything I need to do a podcast in the event that I actually want to do that. Like I owned a photography business for a while. I can just go. And we talked about it on the car one day on our way to a garden. And we were like, we could actually start like coaching people who are having relationship problems because we know all this shit. And I was like, let's just do a podcast. And we had these conversations and we decided to do the podcast, and we did the podcast, and we created our Patreon. And I remember being like, man, could you imagine if we had 10 patrons? Like how cool that would be to make like an extra $100 a month to just make podcast content. Cause all I'm doing is having a conversation with my wife, dude. Like it's easy.
Yeah.
I could do that all day long. And now we have over 1,000 people on our Discord. Like,
Yeah.
and this is year 3 of us recording and doing all of this. I never would have imagined that this would have done what it's doing, because it started off as just like people asked like, you should create a podcast. And we're like, okay, we'll do that. It was kind of we thought it was going to be a flop, dude. We had no idea this was going to actually take off. None.
Yeah. And it's growing, man. There's a lot of people in my area, man, who that don't follow me like on social media or like whatever, but they follow you guys. And I've gotten now as like 5 or 6 high school friends, like people just like coming out of the grapevine, or
The woodworks.
or the woodwork,
Yeah.
who are just like, bro, I just saw you on the To Be Better podcast channel, like, and I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, I'm a co-host on there now. They're like, what the fuck?
It's
like,
wild, right?
Like mind blown,
Yeah.
and and I'm like, yeah, man, I get along. How long has this been going on? I'm like, not long. We're like, man, you guys seem like so it's been pretty wild, and as time goes on, because like when you first had me on, there wasn't hardly any time to go through and watch a lot of videos.
Yeah.
And stuff. So now that I'm doing that, I'm putting it in my headphones, and that's what's allowing these episodes and stuff to go a little smoother and stuff, is that I'm kind of vicariously picking up on a lot of like your beliefs and stuff, because they're well put, they're well spoken, obviously like well thought, and they're demonstrated.
Yeah.
And knowing that the success and stuff that you've had isn't just some rolling of a die, like, wow, it worked, it was a good idea, and it was backed with discipline, and it showed fruitfulness.
Yeah.
So of course anybody looking in is going to be like, this guy's worth listening to, his wife worth listening to, and you guys, like, you guys grunt it out when you need to grunt it out, and then when you can't keep your hands off of each other, you don't. You guys are the fucking epitome of a great relationship.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to work. But this book, however, I'm still trying to get my way through this fucking ceremony. I'm now I'm like an hour and 20 in.
So you're
right?
still on her side of things.
Yeah. But I am, I'd like to read your book. And I'll buy it.
I can send you one. I have a bunch of them sent at the house.
God, that's so sweet of you. That just
I'll even sign it for you. I'll draw a penis on the back of it.
I figure. But notice I didn't expect it though.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, nor would I. But it'd be nice because that gives insight. Seeing as how much it kind of altered this person's state of mind in a positive way. And which props. I hope that we're friends on Discord. If you're remaining anonymous, like, great, or whatever. But I hope to see you in the Discord. Yeah. I would like to hear more about you and just your opinions. You're a great writer. You're someone that's definitely awesome to listen to. But hearing how this has kind of revolutionized their life, their frame of thinking, it's given them like quite a bit. I would like to read that book. And the great part is it's 164 pages.
165. Yeah, it's not long. The book is maybe a half-inch thick. You could read this just taking a shit and have it done in a week. Like it's
yeah. See me, I used to love to read and whatnot, and now it's like a matter of depth perception, which like it makes it incredibly difficult to keep my place, because of depth perception, and B, like focalizing my one eye on something that close to me, like for that long, just like tattooing, I end up getting like kind of like head nausea. You know what I mean? Like it kind of, not really like a headache, but like my eye will spend kind of hours afterwards, kind of like twitching around,
It's
so
strange.
that's kind of perfect, because I think that amount of pages is just about whenever I would
That's
need to
funny.
toss in the towel.
I'm gonna end up with an audiobook here. We have a ceremony in April, at the end of April, end of this month. We're doing another eye ceremony. It's next weekend, and then we have 2 weeks of Costa Rica at the end of May. So I'm hoping that if it hasn't been done by May, that I'm gonna sit down at the end of our Costa Rica trip and actually just do a audio version of the book for Audible. I have to plug a couple of things, and then we can wrap up. I know you got a tattoo appointment in an hour, so.
I got to plug a few things too.
All right, well, you go ahead because mine's probably gonna take a little bit longer than yours.
Okay. Yeah. So anybody, just so you know, I'd like to give a little bit of a plug to the company that I run. It is a herbal supplementation company. You can go check that out at hellfireholler.com. It's a lot of the products that I created and crafted out of necessity for whenever I was in recovery after an attempted murder on my life. These products have ended up helping quite a few people. There's a lot of people saying that they have positively impacted them. So if you'd like to try that, go to hellfireholler.com. And my name is Deadeye Two Tongues on all social media.
All right. So I have we have a Patreon community. Obviously, the lady that wrote that second email is a part of our Discord. In order to get to the Discord, you have to join our Patreon. Did you get your Patreon set up yet?
Zach says he can do it this weekend.
Dope. Zach is a fucking godsend with all of this. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the community we have.
I'm wondering if he knows he's doing my Patreon though. Like,
you'd have to ask him that.
I pretty much just told him, I'm like, bro, you're gonna have to fucking be the hero.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're going to be that Saliva Nickelback song for me.
Yeah. Not gonna sing that song right now. It's fucking
and they say that
reeling it back. Stop it. Stop it. We will be doing a trip to Greece in 2026. The trip was announced on Monday. These Voice of the Broken episodes release a whole lot faster than the podcast episodes that we air. We are recording into July as of right now for the To Be Better podcast. So for those of you who are listening to this, we have announced the Greece trip for 2026. There are 16 slots left available to go. It is 6 days in Mykonos. We will be doing 2 seminars while we are there. There's beach tours. There's a whole lot of dope shit. You guys can find that out by either clicking the link in the description of the video or going to our website, tobebetter.com, and clicking on the couples retreats. We also have 2 domestic retreats that are happening this year. We have one in Florida in June and one in North Carolina in August. All of that information is on tobebetter.com. And that's it. That's all I've got. So unless you have anything else, we can wrap up and you can go get tattooed and I can sit here and edit all the fucking behind the scenes footage that I've got sitting.
I am going to be doing the tattooing, unfortunately.
Oh, that sucks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I sat with breaks 6 hours yesterday, from hip to armpit and on the back. So my back piece now connects with my side. Awful. It's absolutely awful. So yeah. So I was talking about this on Discord. So my buddy got like a video of me like just flat out snoozing, snoring in the area that you think I would just be screaming. And he's like, yeah, man, you just like fell asleep. And I'm like, nah, dude, that's not what happened. Like I reached the ultimate point of acceptance during all of that. My brain was fighting. I was trying, I was saying mantras. I was in it, and finally I got to the point of acceptance that like I do whenever I'm suspending, all the anxiety, everything's gone. And I just totally accepted what was happening to me. And I'm fairly sure I astral projected right the fuck out of my body. I was fucking tap dancing on top of my back, man.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was cool, and I needed it. I'm getting older.
It sure hurts more, doesn't it?
Oh God, dude. It is terrible. Especially like people are like, oh, my ribs hurt worse than anything. And I'm like, yeah, I had a needle hit every pore, every square inch of that son of a bitch yesterday. Yeah. I mean, killer. But no, that was all I really need to add, I think. Other than quit bitching and get to fixing.
All right.
I'm Deadeye Two Tongues.
He said the line. We're done, guys. Have a great day.